So, welcome everybody to today's webinar, Technical Recruitment in the Age of AI. We have an awesome webinar planned for you today, and we want to get started very shortly. But before we do that, I've got a couple of very quick housekeeping things to get through. So, as always, this webinar is being recorded. So if you can't make it to the end of today's session, or if you'd like to share it with one of your colleagues, we'll be sending out the recording link tomorrow. It'll also be published on our YouTube channel, so you can check it out. Check us out there at Skill Panel Official on YouTube. Second of all, there will be some polls throughout today's discussion. So if you'd like to partake in those polls, we'd strongly encourage it. All you got to do is cast a vote when I launch them on the screen. If you're joining on Zoom, unfortunately, if you're watching on LinkedIn, you can't vote in the polls. But please get involved. We've got a bunch of questions related to those polls, so your involvement is critical there. And last but not least, there is time for a Q&A session at the end of today's discussion. So if you've got any questions for our panelists at any time during the webinar, just drop them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. If you're joining on Zoom, again, on LinkedIn, you can't do that, but I'll be checking the comments on LinkedIn, so feel free to fire in questions there. If for some reason a question comes to you later after the webinar and you'd like to write to us, just write to us at hello@skillpanel.com and you can fire any questions there. Now that those housekeeping things are out of the way, I'm going to introduce our panelists. I'm going to go from left to right on my screen. So Pavel, can you just give us a quick introduction about yourself, please?
Hello, everybody. I'm Pavel Zdziech. I'm a principal customer advisor in Skill Panel, where as the name of the position says, I'm advising our clients in their skills journeys.
Yes, thank you very much. And your second webinar with us as well. So very happy to have you back. Jakub, who's done a million of these with me. So could you give us a quick introduction about yourself, please?
Yeah, and not only with you. My name is Jakub Briński. I'm a founder at the Skiller. I do have a background in IT, so I will be the engineering voice today. For the last 13 years, I'm helping companies all over the world to streamline their recruitment, technical recruitment, as that's a little bit different story than the regular recruitment, as well as move towards the internal recruitment and the talent marketplaces.
Yeah, which we will certainly do today. And obviously, we do have a lot to get through. We've got a bunch of polls and a bunch of questions. What we're going to try to do is actually tap into the experiences of Kuba and Pavel. So Pavel, obviously, with a strong background in technical recruitment, and Kuba on the engineering side, and that we're going to hopefully be able to really tap into both of your knowledge there in throughout today's discussion. What I'm going to do, though, if I can find it, is launch the first of our 3 polls, which should be appearing on your screen right now. It's just to get a bit of a feel for your current technical hiring process. The question here is, how would you describe your current technical hiring process? Well aligned with how engineers work today, partially aligned but relies on outdated methods, mostly outdated and due for change, or of course, unsure or here to learn. That is also completely fine. And it is actually going to open up our first part of today's discussion, where we talk about how technical recruitment has evolved in the past 10 years. So please cast a vote. And I can see that even more of you have joined since we started. So thank you very much for joining us. We've just begun. There's a poll on your screen, so cast a vote. And I am going to end the poll. It's not quite all of you, so better luck next time if you didn't manage to vote. But I'm going to share the results, which should be appearing on your screen now. So how would you describe your current technical hiring process? We've got votes across the board, but the highest vote getter with 50% was partially aligned, but relies on outdated methods. A good portion of you also voted for well aligned with how engineers actually work today, and then a couple of votes for unsure and mostly outdated. So that is perfect, because we believe we have something for everybody today. And as you mentioned, this first question here is for you, Kuba. As you mentioned, obviously, with your engineering background, how has the ways engineers worked evolved over the past 10 years?
I would talk probably even more about the last 20 years. For one reason, there are still companies who are left 20 years behind what's currently on the market. So basically, when you think about software development in 2006, 2007, it was something that you can call an era of fragmentation. So the software development were basically a series of silos. So like we had the business analysts that were analyzing what needs to be done and what business needs from the software. Then the artifact that was produced by the business analyst, so the Word documents always were passed to the system analyst, so someone who was analyzing it from the system perspective. Then after this person analyzed this, okay, so you need to be able to change or introduce extra statuses for customers. So that's where we need to extend our CRM system. Then these requirements were passed to the architect or the enterprise architect. We're thinking, yeah, it's really like a CRM, and in CRM we need to do that. We need to populate it, the master data will be here, etc. Then it was passed to the software designer or a system designer who was designing the changes in this particular CRM system. Then it was passed to the coder, so the programmer was implementing that. Then it was passed to the QA, and then back to the different layers of quality assurance. So that was the problem. And then around 2009, 10, Agile occurred on the market. Of course, occurred earlier, but the company started to adopt Agile at that time. And then they said, okay, so the distance from the business to the actual software engineer is dramatically high. So the problem is that when the person A says something, then the person B understands something, the person says something. So basically the solution that was built were very, very far away from the business requirements in terms of what needs to be done and in terms of the timing. So Agile said, okay, we need to change it, and we basically need software developers. So people who will understand the business needs, will understand the business requirements, will be able to actually call or have a meeting with business stakeholders to talk about the needs, and the role change. So instead of just someone who is sitting down in the basement and writing code and specializes in writing algorithms, etc., they were most focused to resolve problems, and they start using the software to resolve problems instead of just creating more of them, right? So this was the first change. And right now, for the last 2 years or really a year, LLMs, so AI, appeared in the market, and we have another big change that is similar to the one that was triggered by Agile. So basically, we will have even less roles, because when you think about the whole software development life cycle, so the whole process that you need to go through to develop a software, it really is compressed right now, and many of those areas that were responsible for architects and developers and QAs, right now we can do it by one person. So right now, if you are working with AI, you are more an architect of intent rather than a software developer. So you are not writing code itself. I got back to coding thanks to AI, and I haven't written a single line of code in the last year. I'm only writing prompts, and I'm of course technically describing what I want to achieve, how I want it to be built, because I know that I don't want a linking table here and I want to do it that way. So I'm creating a very detailed specification, but I'm not writing the code. So that's how the role was evolving from the siloed roles and the fragmented process of the software engineers that were basically programmers, to software engineers, and right now more to software architects that are one-man army. So a person who is able to do the same as some time ago was a responsibility for the whole team.
Yeah, equipped with AI, of course, which is obviously going to be the core topic of what we're talking about. But thanks very much for that, Kuba. So, Pavel, shifting gears towards your experience in technical recruitment, why hasn't recruitment kept at the same pace as the way that software engineering has been developing over that time, 10, 20 years, as Kuba spoke about then?
Yeah, in my opinion, the main reason why the changes haven't happened at the same pace in recruitment as they do have in software engineering is that the nature of the work of a recruiter is totally different from the nature of the work of the engineer. When engineers deal with systems and tools, uh, recruiters deal with people, and it is much easier to change, to evolve in systems and tools or even methodologies than it is to evolve in something that's fundamentally human as people talking to people, because recruitment has always been, in its essence, in its nature, people talking to people, people interpreting what other people have said, or people predicting how other people will behave in a particular role or in a particular environment.
Mhm.
That's why I think this is the main reason why the role of recruitment, the role of a recruiter, and the nature of recruitment hasn't changed that much. And I would say that in a way it is a positive thing, regardless of what we hear now from AI evangelists, that AI will speed up the process, speed up the
Mhm.
increase the efficiency of recruiters by, I don't know, 20, 30, 50%. I would like, and maybe what I'll say now is something of a controversy, but I would like the recruitment process to be a little inefficient. Let me explain what I mean. Um, just by the example, when you talk to a candidate during a job interview, when you ask him about his hobbies, his or her hobbies, from a purely productive perspective, it is inefficient because this information doesn't add anything to the knowledge about the candidate's professional qualities. But in terms of human touch, in terms of relationship building, it is a hugely important thing to connect with the candidate. So this inefficiency is most welcome in recruitment. I think, and I believe, and I hope that there will still be some
Mhm.
place for these little inefficiencies in the recruitment process.
Um, if I may just like add one thing, because I believe like, and that's how I see that, right? That AI is really like removing some bottlenecks and is building inefficiency where we don't want this efficiency to exist, right? There was a research that I've seen yesterday that if you think about sales executives, they currently, and that's the Salesforce research, they're spending around 28% of the time on actual selling, right? So that's the problem, that basically it's like 2 hours per day, and what they do for the like remaining 6 hours per day, they do everything else than selling, right? So I
Mhm.
believe that in terms of their recruitment, yeah, I believe that the basically the interview should be longer. Like we have normally the interviews are around 1 hour. I prefer the interviews that are last from like 90 minutes to 2 hours. But I believe that if we're talking about the sourcing, for example, or doing a background checks of the candidates, if that's the part that can be automated, then all recruiters will be happy because they like talking to people. They are used like people like, but they don't like this like process overhead, that is. So if you can use AI to remove those parts that you don't like and focus on interviews, then there's a win-win situation.
Beautiful, beautiful. I agree completely. I believe that the human element in this inefficiency is what makes a good recruitment process. Because and as you said, Kuba, this AI can actually eliminate that process, which is what we're trying to avoid. We hear about these nightmare cases when having an interview with a person, but it's an AI and these sorts of things. So it prompted me actually to change the next poll, which I'm just about to launch on your screen right now. It was originally talking about outdated hiring techniques, but I change it to an efficient hiring techniques. So question here is, what is your biggest fear of having inefficient technical hiring methods? Losing strong candidates to better hiring experiences, hiring engineers who struggle in real production work, slower hiring and higher recruitment costs, or lower diversity and fairness in hiring decisions, or other? Obviously, there can be more. And if you believe that, vote for other and drop it in a comment for us to talk about. But I think, as we've already discussed now, which is obviously this wasn't planned, but I think rather than talking about outdated necessarily, it may be just inefficient or, up to the times in the sense of working working collectively with AI, I think is what we're going to dig deeper into shortly. So there's less than half of you voted. So please cast a vote if you're just listening in or
I
having some
voted.
lunch.
Thanks that we
Yes.
can vote. That's cool.
Yes, I know. I toggled it on before we started because I know you guys would like to vote as well. Unfortunately, I can't though, so that's the only negative.
But
I'll I will let it run a little longer because it is still, yes, way less than half of you have voted. So I'm going to let it run just a few more moments and then share the results on your screen. One more. Come on. Okay, no more. One more. Beautiful. Okay, I've ended the poll. I'm sharing the results on your screen right now. So what is your biggest fear of having inefficient technical hiring methods? We had, again, votes basically for all, but the highest vote getter here was 39% hiring engineers who struggle in real production work. We also got votes for slower hiring and higher recruitment costs and losing strong candidates and better hiring experiences, as well as lower diversity and fairness in hiring decisions. We are going to talk a little bit more on the highest vote getter here about real production work and how this works alongside LLMs, which we've touched on, but that's coming a little bit later in the discussion. What I wanted to talk about now, Kuba, was about the consequences of this gap between engineering and hiring methods today, and I guess particularly in the context of AI. So what is the consequence of this gap we've talked about?
I believe that every answer that appears in this poll applies to that. So
You don't say.
that's it. Yeah, but basically, I would say that I call it a recruitment lag. That basically recruitment is usually behind the real engineering, right? So some time ago, the whiteboard interviews were pretty popular for software engineers, and that was of course cool when we had programmers that was really writing those quick sort algorithms. I started that way in like 90s when I was really implementing the quick sort algorithm myself, etc. But then we moved to the era of frameworks. That I needed to know the ecosystem of my technology rather than write the quick sort myself, because it was very inefficient. And as engineers, we don't like inefficiency. So why should I write the quick sort? What everyone for the last 20 years knows exactly every single line of code that needs to be written here, right? I just need to know that I should use quicksort. So that was the problem. And that the whiteboard interviews were in place. And for me, the main, let's say, consequence was founding a company to do it better. And we moved towards something that was called a work samples. So as a work sample, we were able to verify people in the, let's say, final environment. So in the environment of the company that they will use on a daily basis, right? And I believe that after 15 years is still the way to go. The problem is that those work samples are often created as very, very artificial tasks that are not close to the reality. And, every time when a recruiter, sorry if it will be offensive for someone, asks me how we can prevent people from using Stack Overflow, I say, why should you do that? That's a normal, normal tool for an engineer. You want to use an open book exam, and you want your engineers to use everything they will use on a daily basis. I consider myself as a very good software engineer. If you will take me Stack Overflow 10 years ago, I wouldn't write a single line of code, almost. Of course, I'm joking, but that would be a mess. When there was an outages of Stack Overflow, I prefer to do something else rather than try to manually resolve the problem that was already resolved by 20 different engineers. So that was the problem. And the same is right now with AI. If as a recruiter, you are thinking how to prevent your candidates from using AI, why? Maybe ask them to write a code on the whiteboard or on the sheet of paper. That will be the same. As a developers, we use AI right now. So if you're afraid, for example, of losing best candidates, that's the best way to lose people. Like ask them not to use AI and you will lose the best, right? Because should you, why do you want to test me against the environment that is not my natural environment? There was a joke that I've heard long time ago that two guys are discussing some problem and saying, oh, this problem has like totally no practical application. It will be great for recruitment. So no, it won't be great for recruitment. In recruitment, you want to have very practical approach. So if we're talking about how software engineering looks right now, I'm able to solve huge problems in 2 hours due to use of AI. And asking me to resolve some very, very simple task when I need to add 2 lines of code. For AI, it will be 20 seconds, and I don't even need to read the task, right? So this is it. So if you are thinking about using such tasks, then of course you need to do everything to prevent usage of AI, which is basically impossible because I can use my phone and I can make a screenshot and ask Chat GPT or Claude to parse the code and write it and dictate me what I need to write. So it's useless. But if your recruitment process really mirrors the daily job of a software engineer, you shouldn't be afraid of any technology. They're using AI, great. That's exactly what they will do first day after they will be hired in your company. So we really need to ensure that the recruitment methods, screening methods, testing methods reflect developers' work like 100%, right? Because otherwise you will start like trying to limit them artificially just to ensure that you can test something. But the problem is that this something is not something that is important from a software engineering perspective, how it looks nowadays. And it's a great solution if you want to hire people who won't be effective for you. And that's counterproductive, because if today you are looking for a software developer that is great at writing code, these people will write code because that's where they are good and that's what they like. I don't want to hire developers today who write code. For me, writing code today is like a huge inefficiency. LLM is better at writing code if I know how to use it. So that's what I should test, right? So that's the biggest consequences of those gaps. So just to summarize, like you will lose the best candidates because they will be like, irritated by your process, and you will hire people who are not effective for your day-to-day job because you are testing them against some artificial conditions.
Yeah. And we're going to go a little bit further into rethinking screening and assessment a little bit further down into the discussion. Before we do that, though, and thanks for that, Kuba, but before we do that, Pavel, I wanted to talk a little bit about how AI tools have changed recruitment. Obviously, we touched on a little bit about this human element, but how do you see the use of AI tools and AI-generated applications affecting the way that recruitment's carried out today?
Yeah, the first obvious way, and I think a lot of recruiters now see this thing is increase of the number of candidates applying for positions. Of course, partly to blame is the markets at the moment and the market conditions, and lots of tech companies, and not only tech companies, having layoffs and all that. But after the AI revolution 2 years ago, definitely the number has increased. Now when it's very easy and it's a matter of minutes to apply for dozens of positions, there are a lot more applicants. And that's a challenge, really.
Yeah.
Second thing is that CV is no longer any measure of candidates' quality. In the good old days, when everyone was writing their own CVs by their own without any advanced tools, it was some measure. A good communicative, well-written CV was some indicator of candidates' quality. Now not. Second thing is, the obvious thing, something that Kuba already mentioned, that's take-home assessment or online assessment. You need to be very careful about 100% certainty of whether the assessment was done by by the candidate itself or with the help of LLMs. So these are three main challenges, but there are also very, very positive ways in which AI changed the recruitment. So now it is a lot easier for recruiters to get good quality knowledge and explanations of technical concepts. I really wish I had LLMs back in the days when I was struggling to understand the concept of dependency injection, for example. And I was reading blogs and Wikipedia articles and all that. And today it's like
Ask AI.
explain like I'm 10-year-old and I have dependency injection explained. So there are some challenges with AI and its impact on recruiters' work, and there are some really positive aspects of it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. It's a sort of natural segue to the sort of the next two questions we've got here that we're going to talk about. I'm going to go to you, Kuba, first. You've touched on it a little bit about simplified recruitment tasks, but I think I'd like you to focus from the perspective of an engineer, of a developer. So like the risk or the problems with simplified recruitment tasks, and what are sort of these methods that fail to capture real engineering capability today, especially in the age of AI?
Yeah, so as I said, basically, if you use tasks that do not reflect the daily job of engineers, you're like incentivizing cheating, right? So you're like forcing people to cheat because the tasks are basically from their perspective, they call it stupid, right? Why do you ask me to write a simple SQL query? What do you want to test? Like, the AI is great at writing SQL queries. So why is that? But basically, one thing is that learning is crucial, but unlearning is also important. I unlearn many different things that are like, it makes no sense to keep them in mind if I can use AI to do that, right? So why should I remember the syntax of a change set in Liquibase while LLM can do that? I just need to know that I need to do that and what's like important about it. What are the risks, right? So if you will ask me about that, then it's perfect. If you will ask me about the structure of the file, I have no idea. Like I wasn't reading one for the last 5 years. It's always generated by LLM. I'm only reviewing if indexes are there, right? And the same applies for the recruitment tasks. If you want to have a good recruitment tasks, have a task that reflects the daily job. So if you expect people in your company to be able to resolve such problems in 2 hours, then give them like a 2-hour task that is similar scope. So for me, at Skill Panel or Deskler, earlier on, we are building the recruitment tasks. The task was to fix a bug in the application, and you of course needed to understand this application. That took like 20 minutes. Then understand what needs to be fixed. Another 20 minutes fixing it and testing the bug fix. Another 20 minutes, 1 hour. Right now, the same task can be analyzed by LLM in 60 seconds. And the bug is fixed in another 60 seconds. So, of course, if you ask people to resolve the same task in 1 hour and you say, please don't use AI, like they will use this AI, right? So that's the gap. But if your task will be write the whole module in the application in 1 hour, then you don't need to ask them to use AI. If they want to use AI, they won't be able to complete the task. So that's how you can do that. So I would say that just mirror what you want to have. Otherwise, you will basically fail. So really something that should be like North Star metric for all your recruitment tasks and basically a screening process and recruitment process. It's something that is called, we can call it like real world parity, right? So make sure your test equals the actual daily job tasks by keeping also this open book philosophy, right? So let's do it that way. Because otherwise you will do like people who are right now thinking about how to prevent using AI in LLM were like thinking 5 years ago how to prevent using Google. Why should you prevent someone from using Google? Like if people can use Google, they know how to Google. It's a skill. Like it's basically a tool fluency that you need to verify because that's what they will use on a daily basis. So I would say that's it. Basically, like think about the software engineers not as the compilers who write the code, but more as the creators who create the reality and who create the solutions to your problems, not the problem factories. Like there was a joke that I had a problem, I used Java, and now I have a problem factory. And that is like very close to reality. So basically, if your task can be solved by really pasting it to ChatGPT, the problem is the task, not the candidate. It's great that candidates use that because that's what you expect from the software engineers. So that's how I would like build this solution. So really like start with talking to your software engineers how they work, try to understand their work, right? Often the recruiters are here, software engineers are here, and the only touch they have is software engineers complaining about the quality of the candidates, right? So really start with asking, how do you work? What tools do you use? What frameworks do you use? What are the challenges for your job? And then really build a recruitment pipeline, whole pipeline that is really like focused on the problem that you have. Why, like Justin, when we are like hiring people that touch with customers at Skill Panel, we focus like on the experience. We know that the process, the product that we have is really tied to HR processes. So we need someone who can understand those processes and we can like teach them the product, right? Not someone who will be like, teach the product and then will like go through scripts and pretend they know what they are talking about, right? Pavel has like, I don't know, 20 years of experience in technical hiring. So we don't need to teach him anything here, right? And the same applies for the recruitment in software engineering. Ask where are the bottlenecks, what are the hardest part, what they need. Preferably get a list of skills they need to have, what skills are core, what skills are nice to have, and then build a process and build the recruitment tasks for that. The best way to build a recruitment task is to ask your engineers to build this task for you. There are, of course, some like, tricky parts of those tasks that you need to know. But even if we build the task for our customers, we always ask, okay, what are the tools that you use? What are the business domain problems that you need to solve? What are the unique skills that are looking for people? Because of course the recruitment tasks and the recruitment process for people who will build a SaaS tool versus people who will build a mobile application versus people who will build like a super highly performant real-time ads bidding network, they are different skill set, different problems. Even if the tools are the same, they are focused on totally different things. They have different backgrounds, different personal skills, etc. So that's how.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and thank you very much for the insight there. Your point about learning and unlearning reminded me of an article you actually published a little bit towards the end of last year. So if you saw the link come through, everyone, that's the article there. It's up on our blog. It's a little bit of a broader perspective on this concept of learning and unlearning. Pavel, back over to you, talking about the recruiter's perspective. As you said, more candidates, but sometimes necessarily showing weaker signals. So from a practical standpoint, how should recruiters or how should HR rethink the screening and assessment stage of recruitment?
Yeah, the first obvious thing to reduce the noise, because as you said, there are a lot of applicants, meaning a lot of noise, and to increase the signal quality is to limit the number of applicants. And I know it won't, what I would just say, it won't apply to any company because each company, each situation is different. But really, whenever you can use your internal network of your own network as a recruiter. When you've got some experience in the field, use that. Whenever you can use referrals, use that as well. Whenever you can outreach actively, and not only on LinkedIn, but also on GitHub or in the previous days, Stack Overflow, do that. So be more like a sniper and less like a machine gun shooter when you source for candidates. So this way you will reduce some noise. Now coming to the assessment part, yeah, that's a little more tricky because as we said, LLMs do a great job in pretending that candidate can pretend that they know something, whereas they don't know. But I believe that a well-skilled recruiter, a knowledgeable recruiter, and I believe that every IT recruiter, the ones that are at least moderately intelligent, they can know the fundamentals. And by knowing the fundamentals, like design patterns or test-driven development principles, by knowing that, they will be able to filter out, to weed out at least the ones who don't know these things. Of course, probably no recruiter will be able to speak on equal terms with a very experienced software engineer, but this weeding out, this sorting out, this eliminating the candidates who shouldn't even get to this pre-screening phase is in itself a valuable thing. And the next thing about focusing on signal and eliminating noise is, yeah, there was one thing that refers to what Kuba has just said, that in this AI era, when AI is a fantastic enhancement of engineering capabilities, of writing code, testing code, designing, and all that. Knowing the business, knowing what software is doing actually, knowing what problem software is solving, knowing deeply your domain. If you're a software engineer in banking sector, knowing the banking sector, knowing the banking processes is really a thing that will distinguish great and good engineers from just good coders enhanced by AI. So that would be my advice. Limit the number of applicants and then focus on business knowledge and know the fundamentals of software engineering yourself.
Yeah. You summarized it for me. I was just about to make this point about the education, the responsibility of education on the recruiter side as well. I think sometimes that can be overlooked, whereas relying on tools exclusively, especially in the age of AI, I think it is a risk in itself. I am going to launch our last poll of 3, which is there. We've sort of circled around the topic of LLMs, but this next portion of the discussion is talking about LLMs. Question here is, in the age of LLMs, what best differentiates strong engineers? Deep understanding of systems and fundamentals, ability to solve complex, ambiguous problems, effective use of AI tools and assistants, communication and collaboration skills, or unsure. And now obviously we've talked about it a little bit. I think in hindsight, what we could have added is this knowledge of the business domain itself. I think was an interesting point that you both made there. But considering we've already discussed that, we can allow the votes. I'll just let them run a little bit longer. And then we have a few more questions left, and there will be time, as I said at the end. I can see a few people have dropped off and rejoined, but we're a little bit lower than what we've begun at. But if you do have a question, I encourage you to drop it in the Q&A now. This whole session is being recorded, so if you can't make it to the end, there will be you'll get the link to this tomorrow in your email. But I will end the poll and sorry, there's one more vote there. Share the results, which are appearing on your screen right now. So in the age of LLMs, what best differentiates strong engineers? 46% of you voted. Deep understanding of systems and fundamentals. Well, we got votes for ability to solve complex, ambiguous problems with 29%, and then equal shared votes for effective use of AI tools and assistance and communication and collaboration skills. So I'll stop sharing that one there and close the poll. That was our final poll. Kuba, coming back to you, in the age of LLMs, you kind of touched on this in the last point, but I was hoping you could elaborate about what actually differentiates strong engineers if syntax and memorization are no longer the bottleneck.
Yeah, so when I was preparing for this webinar today, I built defined the 4 pillars for the software engineers that I believe they are pretty generic for all companies. And of course, I would piggyback here on what Pavel said about the business domain, business knowledge, and also the knowledge of SOPs, so the standard operating procedures. If you're working in the banking environment, you need to know that you cannot repeat bugs on production. There are dedicated environments for that. Like you cannot deploy how you do that. If you work with the PCI DSS compliance, there are some separations of duties that needs to be in place. So knowing that, it's of course useful. But from the engineering perspective, I would say that the first one is that the responsibility for software engineers, so those architects of intents, is maintaining the architectural integrity. So basically, in the past, the friction of the manual coding kept this code base organized some way because you needed to think where to place this single method, right? Right now, if you are using AI, you don't need to think where to place it. AI will place it somewhere. And the main job for software engineers right now is to define all of those standards about how we want to keep the architecture, where we want to keep particular things, how to set the boundaries between the modules, between the layers of different responsibilities, etc. So this is the first thing. So we need a human architect that is really ensuring this structural cohesion of the code base. So you are not building some Frankenstein monster. So this is the first thing. The second thing is basically a rapid prototyping and library assessment, because when you're resolving some problems with AI is suggesting you how to do that. If you're doing a research with AI, which is one of the most powerful use cases for AI, use it for research, and it will suggest you that you should use this library for that. You need to be able to really quickly assess if this library is something that you want to use, if it really is fitting into your architectural requirements, into your non-functional requirements, etc. So you need to be able to do that. So you get a solution and you say, okay, it works, it doesn't work. It was the same skill set that was required from seniors for a long time, because then you had a junior who was this AI saying, hey, I found a great library, can we use it? And they say, no, it has 1 star on GitHub and it was developed yesterday by some random guy. So no, we are not going to use it in our banking production system. So this is the second pillar. The third pillar is this editor-in-chief mindset. Right now, the bottleneck in the software development lifecycle processes moved from writing a code to code review. Right now, LLM can write 10,000 lines or 2,000 lines in 1 hour. Normally, you needed days to do that, but it's hard to review that. And reviewing 2,000 lines of code it's not trivial. And usually, when someone was sending us or submitting us such a pull request, if that was a good developer, I was always replying with looks good to me. Go on, I trust you, guy, right? Mm-hmm. And right now it's not longer relevant, because even if a very good developer created this pull request, I have no idea if he written the code. I believe no, the code was written by LLM, and maybe he don't want to spend his time reviewing that, so he asks and trusts me to do that. So that's the problem. So I really need to focus on this review, and this is something that right now takes 10 times longer than writing the code, while like some time ago it was the opposite. When you were writing the code for 10 days, the review was 1 day, or you were writing the code for 10 hours, the review was 30 minutes. Right now you're writing the code for 1 hour, and you're spending 4 hours on reviewing that. So this is the second mindset shift. And last one is you really need to be a fast learner. Not even the tools, because the tools are similar, but the processes behind those tools, how those tools are developing, it's really developing and changing so rapidly that it's hard to keep up, right? And the article you mentioned, that was it. I was learning the MCP, and after like finishing the first version of our MCP, I said, okay, I need to remove it because like there is a new specification since yesterday. I need to rebuild it. And so that's the problem, and you really need to learn fast. And something that Pavel mentioned earlier, there is a ocean of the new practices, tools, libraries, AI agents, etc. So you need to be able to build your own solution for finding what to filtering all these haystack, and I say, okay, I will pick this, and this, and I will reject the rest of that. That's why the teamwork right now is so important, because it's not even possible to review that. We have a Slack channel for the AI assisted development, where developers are submitting some Reddit threads or some tools or links or webinars, etc., that are worth reviewing, and they are doing the initial review for them. So I have already the filtered, list of materials that I should do. But these are the four pillars. So ensuring that the architecture is in place, and we are not building a technical debt for our products, our solution. Be able to really assess the result of the research that was executed by LLM, being able to review the code and re-review, not say, oh, it's from Marek, so yeah, it looks good to me, approve. No, it's no longer best, and really fast learning. So these are the four things, plus the domain knowledge and the SOPs knowledge that Pavel mentioned, that really needs to be verified. And the good thing is that if you do a good recruitment task, you can verify all of those things at once, right?
Yeah. Really, really good point there. I think the article that we shared before, I think, really applies to what you were talking about there as well. Coming back to you, Pavel, and actually this next question here is interesting, because if I remember correctly, the highest vote getter on the poll was talking about strength in the fundamentals. So the question here for you is about, with the risk of candidates who are good at using AI tools but lack in the fundamental side of work. So how do you balance this in hiring decisions?
Yeah, firstly, I would say that if someone is good in using AI tools, that's not a reason to disqualify him. I would say that in engineering, in IT, it has always been the case that you need to be aware of what's going on in the modern technologies. So I'd rather disqualify the candidates who isn't aware of what's going on in the newest AI models and agentic developments and all that. So it's a plus if someone uses AI, if someone is well read on the subject. That's a good thing. But we still need to assess the fundamentals, and I will come back to this precept, an all-time advice that I've always been giving to my recruiters, that learn fundamentals yourself. Be the partner for the candidate, because in this way you will be better able to pick the right ones, basically, and to recommend the right ones to your hiring managers. There is I've always liked this two things that distinguish good developers. It was created by a legendary programmer, Joel Spolsky, I think he was his name, the founder of Stack Overflow. And he still thinks where a good programmer must be smart and must get things done. Just two things. He even wrote a book, I think, on that subject. Smart and gets things done. So smart, some programming assessment, real-time assessment, the explanation of his way of thinking will do that. But getting things done is something that you can indirectly infer from his previous experience of the programmer. For example, how the role of the developer changed in successive projects. So, for example, if he started to have some new responsibilities like team leading or selecting technologies or interviewing, technically interviewing the new hires, that these can be some indirect indicators of the quality of the guy. Or a small but really telling thing potentially is how he has been changing jobs in his career. Was he referred from a company to company? That kind of thing can give you a hint what's the career of the guy, if he was respected in his previous companies or not really. And I would not underestimate the role of communication. Surprisingly, it was on the last place in the poll, but my experience tells me that a candidate who was an engineer who was really able to explain a complex technical subject in a way that I could understand, usually he was also a great engineer because it told that he really understands the subject. And it is a universal principle in whatever field you're working, whatever things you do in your everyday work. If you're able to explain the things that you're doing to a 10-year-old or to your grandma, that means that you really understand the subject. And yeah, communication is still very important. These are
I think,
fundamentals.
Yeah,
yeah,
Paul
these days.
mentioning how the cooperation with the previous company ended. It reminded me of a joke that the guy is asking a candidate. So, how did your cooperation with the previous company ended? And he said they changed the location. Didn't tell me where.
Yeah. And you got me thinking about the 10-year-old and the grandmother example. I think it's more likely now the 10-year-old might be explaining to the 30-year-old how things work, how quickly things are changing here. So,
Yeah.
okay, we are right around our last question. I just remind everybody again, if you do have any questions for our panelists, please feel free to fire them in. I've got LinkedIn open here. There's quite a few of you watching on LinkedIn. If you have a question, comment sections here open on my screen, so feel free to drop in a question. But I'm going to ask this last question to both of you, and it says kind of an outlook, looking ahead type of question. Pavel, I'll start with you. The technically mature recruitment team, what are they going to be doing differently in the next 2 to 3 years?
I think they will know where to use AI or where not to use AI. Yeah, they will know what to automate and what not to automate.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll maybe provocatively say that technically mature teams will use the already existing tools and the tools that have already existed before the AI, like algorithms have been with us for some time.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that still more than 50%, depending on the polls, but certainly more than 50% candidates don't get any feedback from the companies that they applied to. It's a shameful thing for us recruiters as an industry, as a profession, because these tools are already there. All ATS, the modern ATS has these things. So before we jump into super trendy AI tools that will be able to predict the candidate's cultural fit to our company, let's get to the basics, guys. Let's finally do the basic stuff to ensure that we are treating others as we would like to be treated. Yeah. Let me end on that uh,
Yeah.
on that
Back to the
note.
full circle, keeping the human touch, as you said, right at the top of today's discussion. Cool, but I was going to ask you the same question. Feel free to answer it, but I thought maybe I'd ask you this question instead, which is, if you could change one thing about how companies hire engineers today, what would it be?
Yeah, so basically, I I'm not a huge fan of hiring, like to be honest, for one reason, right? Right now, when you think about the headcount of a general average sample company, they probably have more people than they need due to AI, right? So if we agree, and I do agree with something what Pavel said, that basically it's the domain knowledge, the culture fit. This is something that's important. Like it's not longer um, crucial to recruit for technology. And because like 10 days ago, when you were looking for a Java developer, that was someone who needs to be very strong at Java, someone who is like really knowing the ecosystem, tools, libraries, all of the best practices, etc. Right now, it's more about knowing the architecture. That is like I can learn the .NET architecture being a Java developer in 2 weeks probably, if I really want to do that. So it's more about this, like getting things done, being able to review, and being a fast learner.
Mhm.
So I believe that something what will be important if we're talking about the next 3 years, it's really an internal recruitment. So allowing people to grow in the same company, because otherwise employees will become candidates for your competitors, and your competitors employees will become your candidates. Will just exchange people, and that may not necessarily be the best idea, especially that this organizational knowledge, business knowledge, experience is something that you already have in place. So I would say this is the most important. And that's what we already see when we talk to our customers or leads. More often they are saying that the KPIs for recruiters is that they need to, I don't know, fill 10% of the roles through the internal recruitment. So I would say basically that rather than buying skills on the market, you need to have a good process and good solution for building skills internally. Because and there is another article by me on our
Mhm.
website about the half-life of the skill. Some time ago, when you were working as a telecommunication engineer for AT&T, the skills you acquired at the beginning of the work were sufficient for working 30 years in the same role. Right now, they're often changing after a few months or weeks. So it's no sense to do you want to replace the whole headcount every 3 months because the skills are changing? No, it makes no sense. So we need to be able to develop those skills internally. So I believe that a talent marketplace is the new recruitment, and I really believe in skills-based organizations where you assign people to different projects and tasks based on what they know and based on what they can learn in the next 2 3 weeks, 2 months, etc. And now, of course, what they can learn depends on their current skill set. Because if I know engineering, I will learn iOS development or Apple development faster than you, Justin. And
Mhm.
if we are talking about something else, then you will learn faster based on your skills that you have. And
Mhm.
if we need to pilot the plane, of course, the guy to go, right? We don't need to hire an external pilot to do that.
Mhm.
So that's it. And I believe that the talent marketplace is really the way to go, depending on how rapidly the skills are evolving nowadays.
Mhm. Mhm. I think it's a natural segue because we are just about to finish, but I'd like to share something that we've just published on our website. I'll put it in the chat right here, which is a very quick, about 4 to 5 minutes of your time, skills readiness assessment or skills management readiness check. Cool, but I don't know if you want to add a few more words. This is the brainchild of you and Pavel.
That's a Pavel's child, but yeah, basically that's the main reason is to like skills management and the internal talent marketplaces is like urban legend. No, there is no like a single good description of what it is. Everyone thinks about it differently. So yeah, we created a very short, like 3 minutes survey that allows you to see where you are and how to move forward. So that's it. We are working also internally on preparing the procedure for the skills management that will be basically shared with people. I believe that will be very useful because that's like a detailed cookbook about how to implement the skills. Maybe that's how we should call it, like a skills management cookbook.
Yeah. Working the title's a work in progress. Only came to life yesterday online. So we are exactly on the hour mark. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you who have joined us. Those of you that are still here as well. We had a few people drop off, but thank you very much for joining us both on Zoom and live on LinkedIn. As I mentioned, this session's been recorded, and I actually got a bunch of people who wrote to me prior to this webinar asking for the recording in advance. We're going to be publishing that tomorrow, so you'll get an email with that in your inbox, so keep an eye out for that. I'll also share a link to this skills management readiness check. We also have the recording live on our YouTube channel, which is there with all of our other webinars and panels that we do basically every month here at Skill Panel, so check them out there. If you have any questions for us or something comes to you afterwards, you'd like to learn a little bit more about our tool or anything like that, email us at hello@skillpanel.com. We'll be happy to speak to you there. Or of course, you can reach out to Jakob or Pavel on LinkedIn directly as well, or myself. We're all there. And last but not least, a big thank you, obviously, to you, Kuba, and to you, Pavel, for your insight shared today. Had a really great time talking with both of you, and yeah, hope to see you all again soon. So thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Justin. Thank you, all of you. Bye, guys.
Bye.